making some preliminary comments, and then I'll be followed by Judge Hidalgo, and Judge Hidalgo will be followed by Chief Fenner, and then Chief Pena, and then there may be a few others who may be offering some comments. I certainly want to acknowledge Congressman Al Green from the 9th Congressional District, who's standing with us. You know, last night was tragic on many different levels. And this is a very, very active investigation, and we'll probably be at it for quite some time to determine what exactly happened. Let me just cover a few things first. Based on our latest information, 8 people are reported dead from the event last night. In terms of their ages, one is 14, one is 16. 2 are 21 years of age, 2 are 23, 1 is 27, and 1 remains unknown at this time. So a total of 8 that are reported dead. 6 of the 8 family members have been notified, and we know that at least 1 is outside of Houston-Harris County, resided outside of Houston-Harris County. Based on last night, 25 were transported to the hospital. 13 are still hospitalized, including 5 that are under the age of 18. Based on the information that we currently have, no one is reported missing. So 0 persons are reporting missing. 4 of the 25 will have been discharged from the hospital. Let me just say, as it relates to what happened last night, as far as we are aware, I'm not aware of any incident of this kind that has taken place at any one of our special events, either on the county side, on the city side, pretty much in the last 40 years, where anybody has lost life. Now, we've had events where there may have been a crowd rush, or somebody had to be ejected, or maybe somebody has been injured, but nothing of this magnitude that any of us can recall, and certainly that I can recall, that has taken place in this city. This incident is being thoroughly investigated and reviewed thoroughly. It is important for us to ascertain from last night what took place, what happened, where missteps may have occurred, and in so doing, there have been conversations with, for example, representatives of Live Nation. We'll continue to talk to Travis Scott's people. We'll talk to as many witnesses as we can who were present last night. We are talking with individuals who have been hospitalized to try to get a much better understanding of what took place, what went wrong, where were the missteps. Certainly, HPD and other law enforcement organizations will be looking at as much of the video footage as possible to try to ascertain what took place. We'll look at the security plans themselves. We'll look at the collaboration that took place between the county and the city, even leading up to this particular event. As you know, NRG is a county facility. This is where this incident occurred, but it also occurred inside the city of Houston. So we'll look in depth at the collaboration between the two entities. In terms of personnel, and Chief Fenner can go into this even more, but let me just say preliminarily, we know that there were about 528 HPD officers that provided security for the event, and an additional 755 persons representing private security that Live Nation had that was providing security at this particular facility. So there are let me just say to you, there are a lot of unanswered questions. And over the next several days, several weeks, could be even longer, we'll take an in-depth look at everything that took place, why it took place, what steps we can do moving forward, to mitigate an incident of this kind from taking place at any other point in time. Now, there are a lot of rumors on social media. Let me caution people not to buy into the rumors, okay? Because there are a lot of rumors. But nothing is left off the table in terms of persons who were there, people who may have fainted, or people who may, for whatever reason, were transported to the hospital. There's a lot of conversation about people who crowd surge, all of those incidents, or whether or not anything else was involved. All of those things are being looked at, but it is way too preliminary now to draw any conclusions. But we're not taking anything off the table. This remains and will be a very active investigation. So with that being said, let me yield now temporarily to Judge Lena Hidalgo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, and to all of the law enforcement professionals, first responders who have been part of a swift response. Thank you to them, and to all the Good Samaritans, because we know that it could have been much worse if so many people hadn't stepped in. The events of last night were tragic beyond belief. This is an artist that we know has a following amongst young people, in particular, young people with bright futures. Those were the people that were at the event, went to have a good time, and no one, no parent, no friend, no sibling should see their loved one off to a concert by a world-renowned artist and not be able to expect them to come home safely. And when we read these ages, 14, 16, 21, 21, 23, 23, 27, it just breaks your heart. And I know that the images we've seen are hard to stomach, and I imagine more will surface that are hard to stomach. Since late last night, I've been on the scene. I spent time at the Reunification Center talking to families, hearing their anguish. Those that didn't know where their loved ones were, sometimes it's harder not to know. And so I appreciate everybody's work, collaboration, trying to identify everyone. Our primary focus has been to support the City of Houston, to support the Houston Police Department, the Houston Fire Department, as they were providing the security for the event, as we were helping and leading the response. We have been at the Reunification Center. Our Institute of Forensic Sciences is responsible for identifying the victims. I was in touch with the Dr. Sanchez there, and they are working as quickly as they can on those autopsies so that they can release the bodies to the families and get some answers as to ultimately the cause of these deaths. Throughout the morning, I and my team have also been on the phone with all of the relevant county agencies, trying to untangle as much as we can about what may have led to this. The roles in particular that Live Nation, that the City of Houston, and that Harris County had in any of this. It may well be that this tragedy is a result of unpredictable events, of circumstances coming together that couldn't possibly have been avoided. But until we determine that, I will ask the tough questions, and that's what I've spent the morning doing. What I know so far is that Live Nation and Astroworld put together plans for this event, a security plan, a site plan, that they were at the table with City of Houston and Harris County, with City of Houston agencies and with Harris County's NRG Park. And so perhaps the plans were inadequate. Perhaps the plans were good, but they weren't followed. Perhaps it was something else entirely. The families of those who died and everybody affected deserve answers as to what took place last night. And that's why I'm calling for an objective, independent investigation as to what went on and how it could have been prevented, or if this was a particular situation that was simply out of everybody's hands. And I have directed county agencies to, as soon as we get that underway, cooperate, and I expect and hope the same for everybody else involved. As you all are aware, there was a similar incident in 2019 with Astroworld. There was a breaching of barricades. There were some issues with crowd control. Actions were taken after that experience. There was stronger fencing, more and more robust barricades, more personnel and more security personnel. You guys heard the increase in the officers. 2019 had 47 HPD officers. 2021 had 76 Houston Police Department officers. There was an increase in terms of private security, an increase in terms of event security. There was additional space for crowd control. But I want to know, and the community deserves to know, if more needed to have been done. So we'll focus on objectively finding out and reporting what happened, how it could have been prevented. And the public has a role here too. If you have any information as to what took place, let us know. Let the Houston Police Department know. Rumors, as the mayor said, that's not what we need. But there are some serious questions that need to be asked. So to the families, our hearts go out on behalf of Harris County. Our hearts go out to you, and just know that we won't give up on asking the tough questions about what exactly took place here. I'll repeat remarks in Spanish after everybody speaks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Let me two things that I do want to acknowledge and offer my condolences to all of the families who lost loved ones, and to those family members who were injured. So I do want to do that. Number one, I want to offer our condolences and our prayers to them. Secondly, I do want to acknowledge the quick response of the Houston Fire Department EMS unit. They had units that were already stationed around NRG Stadium, and they were able to step in immediately when reports of incident occurred. So to Chief Pena, to his entire team, to HFD, to EMS, I do want to acknowledge their very quick response. And then from the moment, for example, the reports were made known in terms of people falling, injured, let's say roughly at about 9:30, this event came to an end at 10 minutes after 10 is when everything stopped. And people were in between, either seen on the site or they were transported to area hospitals. So I do want to acknowledge the very quick response EMS units and the fact that this event did come to an end at 10:10. And we do want a very, will be nonstop in terms of the review of this particular matter. Now, Chief Fenner.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mayor said it. We want to send condolences to the family. Nobody, as everybody's hurting, our police department, our fire department, all our citizens, nobody's hurting more than the family members. And our prayers go out to them. And I ask the whole nation, because I know as other news medias here, not just local, to pray for the family. I want to go over a few things. Last night I put out some numbers in terms of security, police officers and private security. I gave the number of 367 police officers. That number was the number that we had assigned for the evening shift. We actually had 528 because we held over day shift officers. Live Nation has just reported to us that they had 755 security officers. A lot of security out there. But as everyone is saying, we leave no stones unturned. This has not happened to us ever in Houston since I've been a police officer, and we take pride of it. And we're going to get down to the bottom. A lot of narratives out there right now, a lot of them on social media, and even last night. I think that all of us need to be respectful of the families and make sure that we follow the facts and the evidence. And that's what we're trying to do here in the Houston Police Department. I will tell you, one of the narratives was that some individual was injecting other people with drugs. We do have a report of a security officer, according to the medical staff that was out and treated him last night, that he was reaching over to restrain or grab a citizen, and he felt a prick in his neck. When he was examined, he went unconscious. They administered Narcan. He was revived, and the medical staff did notice a prick that was similar to a prick that you would get if somebody's trying to inject. That is one part of it. The other thing that's very important, there were some individuals that were trampled, and we want to be respectful of that. But we just ask that y'all give us time to do a proper investigation. Live Nation has stated from the very beginning that they would cooperate. They're going to give us the video sometime this evening. I spoke to my commander in homicide. So we're waiting to get that. That's going to help us. But I also want to call out to the community, kids and young individuals that was out there. If you've seen something, say something. This is now a criminal investigation that's going to involve our homicide division as well as narcotics. And we're going to get down to the bottom of it. I just want to thank Live Nation and everybody else out there. There was cooperation. I also want to say thanks to our police officers. A lot of them administered CPR. Executive Chief Larry Satterwhite was out there. And something that was important, and the mayor just said it, but I want to hit it again. 9:30, right there. That's when a few people started going down. Our people stepped up and immediately went to the producers and told them, hey, people are going down. This show ended at 10:10 p.m. So I just want to acknowledge that. As far as arrests last night, 25 arrests, 23 of those 25 were trespassers. 1 possession of marijuana and 1 public intoxication. So we'll just open it up for questions after. Chief Pena, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to first start by expressing my most sincere condolences to the families of the victims. This is an unimaginable tragedy that they are experiencing. And it's because of that we're committed to work with our partners, the police department and everybody else involved, in ensuring that this is a complete and full investigation into the cause of this tragedy. Know that the Houston Fire Department, we're going to be looking into the permits that were issued and ensuring that the plan that was submitted was adhered to during the event. This is going to be part of the investigation. Our commitment is to ensure that we are turning every stone, as was mentioned here earlier by the mayor, to ensure that we get to the bottom of this issue. The Houston Fire Department, we had a very robust contingency and emergency response plan. The primary medical component was delivered by a third-party medical company for the venue. The security was the same. It was a third-party company that was delivering the security primarily for that venue. In spite of that, we did have units that were pre-positioned from the Houston Fire Department to ensure that we were monitoring the progress and the event. From the time, as Mayor mentioned, from the time that the incident started to escalate around 9:30, we requested additional resources to the scene to augment those that were already pre-positioned around that venue. And this is important. Even though the plan did not require for that, we had pre-positioned units around the venue in case this incident escalated. From the time that the mass casualty incident was declared to the first unit on scene was 2 minutes when we began to make patient contact. That is an incredible response, and look, that can't go unnoticed. As far as the planning, we here in the city of Houston take these events very seriously. Public safety is our primary concern. The mayor has tasked us with ensuring that we have the resources and the plans and the contingencies ready for these events. We've done these before. I believe we had a robust plan for a non-event. Certainly, the level of injuries, the number of people in that venue quickly overwhelmed the third-party vendors that were providing the security and the medical component. We quickly were able to respond. In regards to the layout, There is no occupancy permit for an outdoor event. Okay, what the calculation for the footprint that was going to be used for the event, if we applied the assembly occupancy, the fire code assembly occupancy formula, they could have had over 200,000 people in this venue. Okay, that's just based on math. This venue was limited to 50,000 in that component. Part of when we have large events, one of the things that we consider is to ensure that the crowds are subdivided. They had 2 separate stages in 2 separate areas. That was part of the plan. We had inspectors to ensure that the means of egress, the doors in and out of that venue, were maintained open and unobstructed. Okay, these injuries did not occur as people would try to exit the venue, and that was evident by the fact that once the event was terminated, that whole footprint was cleared out within the hour, 50,000. So the means of egress, okay, the exits, the doors were kept open, unobstructed. That was our assurance. What we're looking into is what caused the crowd surge, what led to the crowd surge and those incidents at the point of the where the concert was being at, the stage. So again, our role in this is to participate with the police department. We are going to be looking at the films and the video as Chief Finner mentioned, and we're going to ensure that the items that should have been in place were in place and that we learned from this event. Really quick, Mayor, the permits that were issued for this were for LPG, and we had inspectors there to monitor that. We had a permit for the pyrotechnics. Inspectors were on scene for that. We had a permit for tents that were erected in the venue. We had inspectors for that. And we had inspectors for the permits for the means of egress, to maintain the means of egress, the doors in and out of that venue to be open and unobstructed, and we had inspectors for that. But again, we're going to be looking at the entire incident to ensure that we're doing the right thing for these families. They deserve it. We owe it to them, and we're going to participate wholly. Thank you, Mayor.
Muy brevemente en español, agradecerle primero al alcalde, al jefe de policías, jefe de bomberos, tantos policías y bomberos que respondieron de una manera inmediata, y los buenos samaritanos. No cabe duda que sin buenos samaritanos, sin estos policías, la tragedia habría sido aún peor. Esta es una tragedia de escala extrema. Es un artista reconocido internacionalmente y un artista que atrae a muchísimos jóvenes. Cuando leemos las edades de los muertos, 14, 16, 21, 23 y 27, y un muchacho que aún no está identificado, se te parte el corazón de ver que estos niños, estos jóvenes, fueron a un concierto y no regresaron. Ningún padre, ningún amigo debe de darle la despedida a su ser querido para que vaya a un concierto a divertirse y que la persona pierda la vida. Entonces es por eso que estamos tomando esto con toda la seriedad, con todo el compromiso posible. Desde anoche he estado en la escena principal, estuve visitando el centro de reunificación, hablando con familias. Sé que muchas veces lo más difícil es no tener resultados, no saber qué ha pasado finalmente. Entonces hemos trabajado mucho por identificar las víctimas. Hemos apoyado a la ciudad, a los policías, a los bomberos con lo que necesitan. También nuestro Instituto de Ciencias Forenses está trabajando en las autopsias, está trabajando por ya poder dar los cuerpos de las personas que han perdido la vida a las familias para poder seguir adelante. Toda la mañana he estado en comunicación con mi equipo, con el equipo del condado, para identificar las responsabilidades en esta situación, para ver exactamente qué hizo Live Nation, qué hizo la ciudad, qué hizo el condado. Es posible que esta tragedia sea simplemente resultado de circunstancias que son fuera de nuestro control, que nadie habría podido prevenir. Pero hasta que determinemos que ese es el hecho, seguiré haciendo preguntas difíciles. Lo que sabemos hasta ahora es que Live Nation y Astroworld pusieron un plan, construyeron un plan de seguridad, un plan de la sede. Y en esa misma mesa de discusión estuvo presente tanto las agencias de la ciudad como la entidad de NRG Park que le pertenece al condado. Entonces hay que preguntar, de repente los planes no fueron adecuados, de repente los planes fueron adecuados pero no se siguieron de la manera necesaria. Es por eso que estoy pidiendo una investigación independiente y objetiva acerca de qué sucedió. Trabajaremos con eso, con identificar la entidad que lleve a cabo esta investigación y le ordenaré a las entidades del condado que participen. Espero todos los demás hagan eso también. Como saben, hubo una situación similar en el 2019 con Astroworld. Hubieron también temas de control de las masas, hubieron temas de barricadas que el grupo logró sobrepasar. Desde ese entonces se estableció barricadas más robustas, más altas, más trabajadores, más policías, más espacio. Pero tenemos que saber y preguntarnos si hubo más que debíamos haber hecho. Entonces, el público también tiene una participación aquí. Les pedimos que si saben algo acerca de qué sucedió, que le informen al Departamento de Policías de la ciudad de Houston. Están llevando la investigación criminal a cabo. Y a los familiares de estas 8 víctimas por parte del condado Harris. Realmente se nos parte el corazón, entendemos por lo que están pasando y trabajaremos hasta donde más podamos, trabajaremos por encontrar respuestas, por identificar exactamente qué falló. Those are my remarks, Mayor.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge Councilmember Abby Kamen, who's the chairman of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee. Councilmember Kamen is present, and Dr. Peirce is also here. And again, I too want to again thank HPD and all of the officers, as well as Houston Fire Department. And then lastly, what I will say, and we'll take questions. Lastly, what I'll say is that whether an event takes place at Minute Maid or whether an event takes place at NRG Park in the county, which falls within the city of Houston, we want to make sure that all of the attendees are protected and that we give them everything that they need so that they can attend and then go home safely. So having said all of that, any one of us can take any questions from any of you. Yeah, one at a time.
Tell us how many doses of Narcan were administered last night? How many people appear to be suffering some type of chemical reaction? How many doses of Narcan?
How many doses of Narcan?
Were any? I mean, was it apparent?
Yes, there were.
Chief, you want
of the victims?
Yes, ma'am. So the number of Narcan administrations, we don't have that number. We do know that there were many instances where they did administer Narcan on scene.
I think that opening this up to a narcotics and a homicide investigation indicates that you're certainly indicating that there is some suspicion that drugs.
I think what we are saying is we're not taking anything off the table. Everything is on, everything will be considered, everything will be taken into account. And until we look at medical information, talk to those who are hospitalized, talk to witnesses, we know that Narcan West was provided. We're going to take a look at everything.
So, Major,
one at a time.
2 weeks ago, we were on level red of risk for COVID-19. So, in first place, why did you guys authorize an event with thousands of people under these circumstances?
Well, bear in mind, we just hosted the World Series in the city of Houston. There were a lot of people there. This was an event that was outside as well.
Chief, how many of the 528 officers were inside among the crowd? And what's the difference in the amount of officers compared to 2019? What was the reinforcement?
Much more officers. I'll get you the numbers. I don't have the exact assignments right now. I want everybody to realize we're not even 24 hours into it, and that's going to be part of our review and part of the investigation because we do want to know exactly what happened.
But were the majority of officers or all of the officers within the crowd, or are we talking about somewhere outside?
The majority of officers are going to be inside.
You don't
inside
know
the
the number,
complex.
more
Yeah.
or less, give
Yeah.
or take, how
We'll
many
give it
were
to you. We'll get it to you.
2019?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it in the
Yeah.
hundreds?
One second.
One second.
Yeah, and I have some.
Hold on.
Yeah, well, let me.
One second now. Wait, hold on 1 second now. One at a
Well, let me add something here. So we have some initial numbers here, and Chief will add what he receives later, but it is in the hundreds. So in 2019, what I have is there was 409 event security, 30 armed private security, and 47 Houston Police Department officers. In 2021, excuse me? 47. In 2021, 505 event security, 91 armed private security, and 76 Houston Police Department officers. As to the question on the COVID, remember, our authority was stripped many months ago, and so we can't even require masks in Texas. So, yes, go ahead.
Were there other reports of people feeling those needles, or was it just that security officer?
Right now we have that one, and we're going to move around. I know it's a whole lot of questions. Who's next?
Chief Phillips.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, whose responsibility was it to shut down the concert when a mass casualty incident was established? And then was it the promoters, the fire marshal? And then at that point, why was it not stopped sooner? There's about a 30 to 40 minute gap time. You
cannot just close when you got 50,000 and over 50,000 individuals, okay? We have to worry about riots when you have a group that's young. I think that time that I gave you from like just a little bit after 9:30 to 10 minutes after 10 to get that closed down, and there was a cooperation and discussion between promoters, our fire department, the police department, and NRG officials. So I think that part was pretty good.
I apologize. I hate to interrupt, but I was actually there last night.
Yeah.
The last song actually started at 10:10. I'm not trying to pick numbers, but there was quite a bit of time. And in fact, there were people actually screaming for the show to stop. And there were people who were saying,
yeah. We'll verify the numbers. That's the numbers that the time I meant to say that I'm giving, and definitely in front of everybody. We want to be transparent and truthful, but we'll check that time. But let me tell you, let me finish, because this is important. If it was one more songs, concert songs mostly, it's a minute or two, so it's not significant. I think the significant thing is that we shut it down. Thank you. Next question.
Actually, how many?
Go ahead. Can you stay just a little bit? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
I'm hoping to learn a little more about the officer, the circumstances around the prick that he felt, and how he's doing.
I don't have that information right now. We're still trying. That was just interviews from an investigator of the medical staff. We're still trying to locate that particular security officer. Okay?
Of the 8 people who died, what can you tell us about their deaths? Were any of them trampled, or do you believe those were drugs?
We don't have all that information, and that's something that I don't want to speculate on. It's very important, and I said I wanted to be respectful of those families. I don't want to go any deeper on that until we get some facts from the medical autopsies and toxicology reports as well. Go ahead.
Chief, we're hearing that a 10-year-old is in critical condition right now. Is that correct?
That's what we have, yes. Yes.
Can you talk to us about EMS?
Go ahead.
Chief, how many were there? We're also hearing
EMS?
that they were not, if it was HFD or if it was a private company, that they weren't prepared.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, the venue, the medical component was being met by a private third-party contractor. They had doctors on scene, they had medical EMTs, they had volunteers. For a non-event, it would have been enough. But when the event started to escalate, we had to come in and augment their assistance, okay, their deployment. I can't say enough about the men and women of the Houston Fire Department. We went ahead and pre-planned, right, in anticipation for a contingency. That's the reason why we had units deployed around the perimeter and were able to respond so quickly. Again, it's 50,000 people, right? For a non-event, it would have been gone off. It's happened in the past.
Do you know how many were there?
Yes, we had 62 units that responded to this. We had, at some point, we had over 20 ambulances that were pre-positioned and ready to transport in our triage and treatment transport or area. Again, the coordination by the men and women of the Houston Fire Department on scene after the incident occurred and escalated was very robust. It was on point. I'm very proud of the work that they did, but certainly, we've been here before. Okay, we ensure that we're planning for a contingency, right? And in a non-event, again, this would have been just another normal major concert. but unfortunately, it escalated. That's what we're going to key in on. We're going to focus on what led that crowd to start to surge, and what were the issues behind that.
You said several.
Yes, one second.
Oh, I don't. I do, but
meeting with
I don't know that number. I'll get you that number.
Have you met with family members of any of the individuals who died
I'm sorry.
or are seriously injured? Can you tell us what and when the names are going to get released, do you think?
Well, number one, we want to make sure that all of the family members are aware. Now, 6 of the 8 family members have been notified already. 2 have not. So we want to be very, very careful with that.
Did you meet with any of the
I have not met with them.
injured or the no?
Not at this time.
Judge.
We spoke to some families
Yes.
last night,
several
but at that point we didn't know whether their person, what was going to be the outcome of the person they were looking for. But that is key, is the autopsies are being conducted, and so we have to wait until those results get back. What our forensic sciences director was saying, some of the toxicology report they can do even without the body, so they'll release that, and then we are still trying to identify the 8th person. We know it's it's a male, but we don't know who it is, and then there is another person's been identified, but we don't know, we haven't found the family yet. So until we have that, obviously we can't release all the information.
What was the limit capacity for the event? Like, it was more people at the event that they planned to?
Opinion. You want to respond? The
I'm sorry.
capacity, you said 200,000, but we limited it to a quarter.
Can you repeat your question, please?
What was the capacity for the event?
Again, there is no outdoor venue capacity. What we did is we applied the internal assembly fire code and did the calculation based on that. It's very conservative. The capacity based on the footprint that was going to be used, they could have had over 200,000.
Do you think it was more people there that they planned to?
No. What I'm saying is that that's based on the math, based on the assembly fire code calculation. They could have theoretically had over 200,000 people, but it was limited to 50,000, and we verified that based on or we try to get assurance of that based on the number of ticket sales that they had. So again, look, it was a wide open venue. The plan included 2 separate stages to try to subdivide those crowds. But again, it was a crowd control at the point of the stage that was the issue, that caused the issue, especially as the crowd started to surge up towards the stage. So that's what we're going to be keying on in regards to the investigation.
When people broke
Yes,
in
ma'am.
at the entrance, why didn't you guys go?
Hold on. Yes, ma'am.
This is in regards to the EMS and also the private EMS that was there.
Right.
I know you can only comment so much, but we're being told only 1 defibrillator was there. I saw many EMS personnel performing CPR on several people
Right.
and trying to get through the crowd. So my question is, did they have enough, even life-saving drugs like Narcan and also other types of equipment to administer right then and there on site, or were additional ambulances needed to come in? And then I just want to couple that with, we also saw them struggling to get through the crowd. Was it part of the contingency plan to have security, maybe possibly move some of the people who are trying to help get to the people that need help?
So let me answer your first question first. All our units are completely equipped with all the life safety and life-saving equipment. They all have defibrillators. They all have AEDs at least, even the first response vehicles. So from our perspective, from the Houston Fire Department's perspective, we had the right equipment. I can't speak about the equipment that the third-party medical component had. I can't speak to that right now. But certainly, when we responded with fully equipped and prepared to assist. There is always an issue with access into these crowds, especially when there is a surge. We depend on and we work collaboratively with the HPD and the security forces or the security components that are there to ensure that we can gain access. But it's always an issue in these large events.
Let's get a few people that hadn't had the opportunity to ask any questions.
1 or 2 more
Okay,
questions as well.
go ahead.
Chief,
I'm sorry.
I think most of what the questions out there have been answered, but I have this. At a certain stage, when this event had not even begun, there was a breach of barrier and security units that were set up to check the people. At that point, if you had those many security people on site, why didn't they put that into consideration and try to see how they could mitigate or
That-
even stop that
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
What action
That's
was taken after that?
one question at a time, please,
Just
ma'am.
one
Yeah. Okay. Look, there are breaches. There are major breaches that shut down a program, a concert in this thing. That wasn't a major breach to me, okay? It was something that we quickly got under control. Do we like any breaches? No, we don't, but that's part of the whole reviewing process and us learning something from this incident. Just as the mayor said, we're not gonna cover up anything. We wanna look at everything that we did right, but more importantly, what was done wrong. Learn from it and move forward and continue to pray for these family members. One more question. He hadn't had one. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry. I'll get you.
Some of the concert goers have said that the barricades that were placed there prevented them from being able to get out quickly. I don't know if that's one of the things you're going to be looking at as to whether
That's not true. What I saw people get out. There wasn't a problem with that. And let me say we'll look at it, but I haven't heard that, Chief. I don't know if you have. Yeah.
Yeah, again, right now, this is still in its infancy as far as the investigation. I know that the means of egress, the doors to get in and out of that venue, that was not an issue. You're talking about within the yeah. So we're going to look at that as far as the design, whether the design was adhered to in regards to the layout, to the plan that was submitted. So all those things will be part of the investigation.
Chief Benner, at this point, there are videos of people climbing up on stage to try to stop the artist from performing, telling the cameramen to stop. Like, are those people going to be questioned or held culpable, or can they be? Is it a matter of that time?
That's a part of it, and when we grab the video, if we see somebody that did something dangerous and broke the law or something, that's going to be something that we're going to address. But again, we don't get the video until sometime this evening or later on tonight. They promised us that. And once we get that and we have some time to go through it, at a later date, we'll update everybody. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Let me.
Injecting multiple people with narcotics. Is that happening to multiple people? Is that what you guys believe?
It's just not
Say it again. I'm sorry.
She's asking about the narcotics again.
Someone injecting multiple people.
I think it's way too early for that. Let me just say, we recognize we're not going to be able to answer everybody's questions right now. This remains a very active investigation. There are a lot of questions that still need to be answered. There are a lot of people that we need to talk to, security plans that we need to kind of thoroughly review in detail, talking with people from Live Nation, waiting on the medical reports. That will tell us a great deal. And at the same time, we want to be very, very sensitive to the families. When we're talking about people who are 14, 16, 21, 23, 27. And look, that's painful on any front. So we want to be very, very sensitive to that. It is important for the community to know that anytime you're invited to a venue, it is certainly everybody's responsibility to do everything that we can to keep them safe. And that's what we want to thoroughly review. So recognize there will be a number of questions. We're not going to be able to answer them all right now, but just know this whole process continues. Thank you all so very, very much. And pray for those who are in the hospital, and then pray for the family members who have lost loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.